I'm Karl Mattson, the field CISO for Noname Security. I'm joined by my good friend and a partner from the CyberStarts portfolio, Danny Brickman from Oasis Security. Danny, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Danny, that you and I have met, several times over the course of the years, and so I've had the opportunity to travel a lot to Tel Aviv and to Israel, learning about the ecosystem. So, before we get into Oasis, tell us a little bit about your background and kind of why you and why so many some of the smartest people in our industry are coming out of Israel today.
So my background is, I would say, really simple if you're comparing to Israeli folks. I've been 11 years in the army, serving in everything related to cyber and software. Been managing engineering there, like sections of 65 engineers, and overseeing a lot of projects related to that. And to your point here, I think the reason why a lot of great startups are coming out from Israel is because two reasons. Like, first of all, the expertise around cyber, understanding that really well. And the second of all is the mentality that we have in the army, which is we are able to say anything about everything, and no matter what is the rank. And like we can challenge and we can discuss, and this creates a lot of innovation and thinking. So I think those two.
Yeah, that's spot on too. Is I served in the army, and I was in the army for 8 years, and I can tell you with a great deal of certainty that almost myself and really everybody I served with, when we're departing service, we are not thinking about going off into the world to start a company that could take on the world and build something. We're thinking about things that maybe we would do 20 years from now, and I'm always so impressed at the sort of the drive and the ambition of that is sort of fostered in Israel that it's hard to find in the U.S. So it's really interesting to see that kind of keep happening in the ecosystem.
I 100% agree with you, and I think as far as I know, the Israeli entrepreneurs, like everyone wants to prove that they can do that. And like Israel is a small country, and like, well, we all understand the challenges. So like coming out and doing something good for like people innovating, creating something new, just like it's part of the culture.
Mhm. So we're gonna get to Oasis and what you're working on here in a minute, but one thing I'd really like to ask if you could dive into a little bit is before you came out of stealth, you're building a company during a time of conflict. And so can you talk to us about what it was like for you and for your team to be building Oasis in a time when it was complicated for everybody? So can you share a little bit of behind the scenes on that?
So I think because people were expecting from us for resiliency, and this is something that we're again also really good at. Like we know how to operate in quiet times, and we know how to operate in like war times. Unfortunately, yes, this is a reality that we were born to, and that we were unfortunately raised to, and this shows the industry, I think how strong is the ecosystem and the community in Israel when it comes to challenging times. And I have to say that specifically now, it's even more than ever. People want to create and continue creating and doing value. It's really important for us because it's like it's a driver. And even in those challenging times, show the world that we still stand and we deliver and make things happen. It's even more compelling and more important for us.
Well, congratulations to you and everybody at Oasis because you proved that you got to emerge now this month coming out of stealth. Can you give us a picture of what the last couple of weeks have been like for you and the team coming out of stealth with a lot of media attention, a lot of focus now on Oasis, and what's that journey been like coming out of stealth?
Uh, it's unpredictable, I would say. No matter what you think it will be, it's unpredictable. And I'm really happy that, first of all, there's a lot of attention to the field and to the problem statement. And we are there only to help solve the problem. And as long as people understand that, we can help. But there's definitely a difference between being in stealth and working on the product, working with the market, working with customers to the point that like everyone now knows what does it mean non-human identities, for example, right? And how big is this risk? So it's changing, and it's really exciting to be in this front of the problem and solving it.
So, since I've known you, that you've been talking about non-human identity from the start. Where's the origin of that or the seed of focusing on non-human identity? What was it about that subject area that really drew your attention?
Um, 2 points. One of them is our experience. Well, we all know service accounts for many years, many years, and in a way, service account been always like the weakest point because like changing passwords was always painful, and then if a password like service account being breached and people don't know about it, the attacker can keep it for years because nobody's changing the password. So this was the mentality that we thought about originally. But more importantly is that the market actually was describing to us like how complicated is this problem and how it's growing right now. And every initiative that the business is driving towards cloud transformation, automations, now a lot of people speaking about AI, but at the end of the day is replacing human identities with non-human identities. They're doing processes, automatic processes. So it was exciting while we've been in stealth to see how the market transition and his focus on that, and how a lot of problems are actually symptoms of non-managed, non-human identity landscape.
In the area of non-human identities, you mentioned secrets, vaults, privileged account managers, Active Directory. There are so many different companies who've specialized in these security areas over time. So, how when you were building Oasis, what were you building towards to differentiate yourself from the sort of the available technologies to
So first of all, two things here that drove us from the get-go. One of them, we figure out that people are expecting in those days in 2024, and hopefully as we look forward to be as agentless as possible and to have fast deployment and fast onboarding. And those type of characteristic of the product are really important in the identity space. But yes, like project in identity space, if you're sometimes last like 18 months of deployment. So we built Oasis to do like an integration as fast as possible so people can get value within days. Actually, I can tell you, Karl, today that with the work with our customers, they're solving their first violation within the first week of working with Oasis and giving value to the organization and showing value to the business within the same week, which was for us a great success. But it's also like this is the goal that we're aiming for as a company and as we're building the product right now. So this was really important for us. And second of all, you were mentioning a lot of solutions that there are in the market, and reality is that there will not be a one single solution to solve secret managers or this, because developers will use their own, and like this team will use this on. So the mentality of Oasis is to help you work with your ecosystem, with your platforms that you're using, utilizing whatever you can, and making sure that you are achieving the goals that you want to achieve in this space. And again, keeping in mind the lifecycle management concept. So working with different secret managers and different platforms at once.
So can you talk about, you mentioned your environment, and I think this is probably true with some teams that have still are dealing with like a legacy on-premise infrastructure. Are they left out here? Is it cloud-centric, cloud only that can take advantage of Oasis? And what do teams with legacy or on-prem architecture have to gain as well?
So first of all, we're not leaving anyone behind. Like the world of non-human accounts is spread across cloud, on-prem, and SaaS, and we're dealing with all of those and helping organization with each part of it. And it depends where we want to start. Many times, cleaning up the mess is like you need to clean up your on-premises or your cloud. It really depends. But we're
Well, on behalf of most banking institutions in the U.S., thank you because there's still a lot out there.
so
So no security discussion today can happen without thinking about the implications of artificial intelligence. And so, can you talk to us about how you think about AI, both in terms of risks and opportunities, and how does that fit into Oasis's strategy?
in the terms of opportunities, it's a long discussion, but I think there is a ton of things that we can innovate inside of the organization because of the AI that is coming in through every door, every window, every hole we have in our house, right? But when it comes to non-human identities, for us, it's like I was describing in the beginning, this transition from manual work to an automation. AI is just accelerating the creation of accounts, sometimes to the point that you don't even able to be understanding like what account's being created, who created this token, what it was created for, because the amount of integration is so high that like we can lose track if we're not keeping up with the right policies out of the gate. And this is really important. This is why driving towards lifecycle management, good posture of those accounts is really important, and collaborating with the teams to achieve that. So those factors are now becoming really predominant, and we're seeing it happening actually in every organization right now. So and actually, it helps us also to explain why it's proliferating that fast. Like for a single operation that you needed to do manually, you needed one account, yours, mine, whatever. But in the world of API architecture, microservices, AI playing a huge game of leveraging a lot of access, a lot of tokens, and you have dozens for one operation, one process. So the math is simple.
So there's a small shift then over to maybe the same question about like RPA and like robotic identities, and where does Oasis play in that space, and how does a security practitioner think about like an RPA identity? Is it a human, or is it a non-human identity?
It's a great question. Actually, RPAs are powered by non-human accounts. Every robotic automation, like is using and leveraging tokens, service accounts, secrets, right? And some of them are overused. Some of them are really hard to be maintaining because we don't know what like other bots are using that, other processes are using that. So again, it boils down again to the same notion of like understanding everything, contextualizing the usage and the ownership of those accounts, and then RPA falls into this one of the buckets of usage of non-human accounts.
So in that non-human identity landscape, give us a few examples of what that entails. You mentioned service accounts, what other types of identities kind of make this universe complete?
So wow, the list is so long, but if we need to put it in several categories, it will be service accounts, service principals, keys, tokens, secrets, certificates, all those different creatures, old and new, that are powering. I know every system today has its own way of authenticating through tokens, keys, and secrets. So this is the whole length of non-human accounts.
So are there specific breaches or examples you think really illustrate the scope and the severity of impact of getting this problem set wrong?
So it's really interesting. We were investigating all the breaches, later breaches, and each and every one of them has a non-human component. Whether it's the first step, or like we stole a secret from like I don't know Slack channel, something like that, and we got into the organization, or people breach or like use the human account, came in, found hard-coded credentials, and like for Uber case or like others like Okta case, and then the blast radius from that point on was really significant, right? But if we're even looking a few weeks ago, Cloudflare declared that they've been breached after they needed to be rotating all the tokens related to the Okta breach, right? They tried to rotate all of them. They forgot about four of them. Not necessarily forgot, maybe they thought they're stale, but those caused the breach, right? And they needed to rotate again all of the non-human accounts related to that. So not only this was like a really long manual process, but they also could not complete it holistically, but because like basics were missing. Uh, so this is generally what's
So
happening now. Yeah.
so if I'm an organization and I've got tokens, certificates, API keys, for example, I may have significant gaps in one area. In other areas, I may be relatively mature. How do I know where to start, and how do I begin to look at this non-human identity space? Where do I start as a security practitioner?
So the first step is we need to understand the landscape. We cannot address parts of the problem. We need to see everything because, for example, stale accounts can be discovered only if you're discovering all of your accounts, right? So mapping them, inventory, contextualizing the usage, the ownership, all of those pieces that needed to even operate on the first place. So this is even only this helps us understand like how big is the problem, where is the risk, like how many exposures we have, what types of exposures we have. But then the next step is just like to prioritize and understand like where we need to start, like what is the lowest hanging fruit from one end and what is the most riskiest accounts for us and address those. Actually, I was lately speaking with my friends and we understood that like non-human accounts, specifically the most critical ones, are kind of like the 0 day of identities, right? Like you don't know about them. They exist there. They pose a really huge risk, and like they might cause your like a massive breach in your organization. So treating those 0 days identities is the next step. Um, and as we're looking at the organization holistically, we understand that like running after those accounts one by one, it's an impossible task. So what we are actually need to be achieving is the lifecycle management of non-human accounts. Just as we did with humans, we need to build this lifecycle process right now for non-humans.
So let's expand a little bit upon that because if we've got organizations that are running Active Directory and key vaults and certificate servers, where you talked about observability, but where do you then also get into the remediation business of being able then to touch those identities and be the life cycle point of emphasis?
So in two parts. First of all, we need to understand like how the process and how the life of those identities looks like. So created by developers, created by identity team, created by this team, who's managing that, who's responsible for the vaults, and what are the processes. The moment we configure like we want to stand on those in those policies like rotation every X days, vaulting every privileged account, etc. What we actually need to do is to make sure that this process is automatically done, right? So, and a developer asking for a key, it doesn't need to be like manually done, create him and then vault it by other team, etc. All of this needs to be completely and holistically managed in this lifetime, in this life of accounts, right? And managed like on top of that, because if we're vaulting it in a secret manager, right, we need to make sure that we are rotating it, cleaning up if it's not really in use, and those kind of stuff. And this is also a manual work that can be automated. So we're looking at this whole process from the beginning of the account to everything that is happening with them, changing permissions, rotating it, and to the moment that it's need to be disabled because it's not in use. So this is a whole span of that.
So for in that life cycle, are there any common denominators that you're seeing pretty much everywhere you go? When you turn Oasis on, you're seeing the same theme or the same kind of finding. Is there any examples that you're seeing pretty much every security team is having is challenged with this?
It's going to the simplest things, right? Stale and privileged accounts, identifying them and cleaning them, making sure that they're really stale and nobody is using them. It's a painful project, but it's so important to clean those up. And the second one is the process of rotating keys and rotating secrets. This is also a manual process that requires a lot of contextualization and working with the teams and like sending emails to people. So only those two really basic things are really lagging behind of the automation approach that we have in general.
Great. So can you give us maybe a thumbnail sketch? Um, where will Oasis be a year from now or 2 years from now? Are there other challenges that you see in the horizon that you really think are the next problems to solve for Oasis?
So first thing first is the market will dictate it exactly because we're now opening up this Pandora box, if you will, right? And the use cases that are coming out of it, and people trying to understand like, oh, can I solve this? Can I solve third parties? Can I solve like employees with access to the secrets, etc.? How can we address it? So this whole notion is now bringing more and more problems to the table. But I think from my perspective, in a year or two from now, life cycle management as it's by itself, if will become more predominant in the organization, we can eliminate the problem almost holistically.
Mhm.
And this will free up to think about like what is the next step with identities and like non-human identities specifically, and what should be the next innovation there. Like how can we maybe federate some accounts, maybe do something else? But this is too early to say because we're now yet dealing with like the basic of like inventory, understanding what is the mess that we have in our organization.
I'm really glad to hear you say that. I can think of a couple examples, but one in particular with a company that my organization about 5 years ago was an early customer of. And as soon as we sort of deployed the technology, we immediately began to use that thing for something that the company did not intend us to. And we were very very happy with the where we were what we were doing. And it was a deceptions platform, but we used it for something completely unrelated. And that thing with that feedback loop to the founders, I think, was ended up to be very valuable. And so that listening to the market and getting the feedback loop.
Yeah.
Is there anything in particular that you brought Oasis to market and working with customers? Is there anything that surprises you, or like what they think or their feedback is very contrary to what you thought it would be, or features that they value that you had no idea that they would value?
Um, so what surprised me is even the basic of like that people, all of them understand the problem. All of
Mhm.
them understand the problem exists, right? And I was like, people was like, hey, like, so why didn't they told anyone else about it?
Mm.
And reality is that when you're asking people, and this is like the nature of all of us, if you don't have a solution for something, you will not try to solve the problem. We know, I know today, and you, Carl, of course, know that CISOs and security experts has a lot on their plate. And they all the time needs to prioritize like what brings the most value to the organization with the resources, the limited resources that we have, right? And if there's nothing that to simplify the remediation, we won't be addressing that. Not because we're bad or not because we're negligent. We're like just because it's like it's we cannot do that. And the moment the problem is described and there's a solution to automate that, suddenly people say, "Oh my God, I can solve it. I want to do that." And then this motion, and that brings, by the way, a lot of features to your question, is creating like, can we solve this? And can we solve that? And can we solve that? And this creates like the best place to for startups to grow and to help the organizations.
So I remember in a organization I was a part of, we had an active directory with perhaps 7 or 8 thousand human identities and about 15,000 like machine or service accounts. Do you see like is there any sort of metric that you're maybe observing for how many non-human identities are out there in an organization?
I will be surprised if we're coming back to that organization, Carl, today, and where we'll still will see 15,000. I won't be
Yep.
surprised if we will see 7,000 human accounts. I will be surprised if it's 15,000 because it's growing really fast and we're seeing the multiplies around 5, 10, 15, and even 100 in several of our customers. And this is without counting in all the different like quick short-lived tokens that we have, right?
Yep. Um, yeah, and that it was just even just Active Directory, of course, and then you've got all the other sort of
Yeah.
identity assets as well. Um, Last thing I wanted to sort of ask you about is like as you go into this American market, of course, there's the CISO is oftentimes sort of assumed to be the to like the buyer or the customer. But what are you seeing? Who's the role in the security team that knows the problem, but also can have the mandate to solve for non-human identity?
You're touching a really interesting and important point right now for organization, and I can say it varies right now because uh, everyone understands the problem. It's just a matter of like who has the permission, who originally had the permission. If we're speaking about, I would say Active Directory service accounts, usually it's in full control of the identity teams, right?
Mhm.
And they're controlling that, and there is in their responsibilities. But when we're going to other types of accounts, it really varies. And like I think today the biggest mission for us as an industry, we need to explain better how this function looks like.
Mhm.
How should we be managing that? We need to like be responsible for doing it like 0 to 1, not only dictating like exactly how we want the policies should be working, but also helping the organization to get to that point. And this is requires a lot of collaboration between teams. At the end of the day, I always saying like in when it comes to identities in mind, when you shut down all of your identities in the organization, you don't have any security issues no more, but then you don't have a business running. So collaborating with developers, with engineers, with cloud teams, with application owners, this is the number one goal that we need to be achieving. And this is requires a mentality and the right approach for that. And I see a lot of organizations are doing that and moving toward that direction right now.
So Oasis.security is the website. Talk to us a little bit about what resources you have available, or how do organizations get in contact with you and your team to see more.
So first of all, you can leave your details on the website and or reach out directly to us through the website or LinkedIn or any other platform that we exist on. So this is one, and the second one is Oasis is focused on bringing as much as possible value as fast as possible, and we're doing it by like giving organizations risk assessment around non-human accounts to help them understand the problem to help them quantify the problem and see it in their eyes with their eyes. And we're doing it really fastly within days. So this is one of the things that we are hoping to help the industry even before jumping on exactly how to solve that.
And then the burning question that seems to be circulating in industry this week, which is, are you going to be at RSA? Will we be able to meet the Oasis security team at RSA this year?
The answer is yes.
Okay.
The whole team will be in the RSA, and I would love to meet as much as possible folks from the industry. And Karl, as I said, I think along our conversation here, this product was built for the market, not for us. And so every interaction, every feedback, and every thought is helping Oasis and the industry to be more secured. So please don't be shy.
Yep.
We will be there, and I'm really hoping to see as much as possible people there.
Good. And our gracious hosts today, Cvision International, Noname has been a partner with Cvision for quite a long time. And those events, the think tank forums and the dinners and the community support that they provide, that's actually, RSA is the fireworks and the large exhibit hall. The Cvision events are a fantastic way to actually get to meet people, talk one on one, much more personal relationship, and that's why we stay connected, and hopefully you feel the same.
Civision is like probably one of the best in that term of what you've described of ability to speak closely to people, to think, to innovate, to give feedbacks and challenge every step that we do. And I'm learning a lot from those events. And I'm really happy that we have the chance to participate in those and meet folks from the industry and a lot of innovative folks that are coming there. So thanks for Civision.